Hey guys, this is Eli from Touch Arcade, and today we're checking out the MOGA Ace Power Controller. It's the first iOS 7 controller that we've seen come across our desks here, and it's pretty great. It basically looks like the leaked images we've seen with the face buttons and the triggers and all that. It's got a neat little button you can hit to see how much battery is left in the device for charging your iPhone or iPod Touch, as well as this button over here which manages to hit the lock button on your phone. And you got your pause button here, and then this is how you trigger the charging functionality. You can either turn it on or off if you don't want to charge your device, if you want to save the battery for the actual controller, or whatever reason. This is what the back looks like. Pretty simple. You can see the triggers a little better. There's a little reset switch which I've only needed to use once to get stuff working, and then you have this lock and unlock slider on the back here that controls how it slides open. You want to keep it locked when you have it in your bag, obviously, so it doesn't just flop open on you. And it's really kind of neat how it connects. All you really need to do is pull it apart, and that's where you set your iPhone or iPod Touch. In this particular demo, we're going to be using an iPod Touch, but it also comes with two different plastic inserts that are sized differently for the phone. But in my experience, you can just use these and throw your iPhone 5 in there, and it works fine. It just isn't totally solid. So to put your iPod in there, you just line it up with the lightning connector, shove it down in there, and then pull the top up so it locks down in, and there you go. You're ready to play. It just connects over the lightning port, so this isn't a Bluetooth controller, so there's no setup required at all. It seems to work pretty good with the games that support it, so let's take a look at a few of those. Dead Trigger 2 by Madfinger Games is a recently released free-to-play first-person shooter. And this genre was what I was most excited to see with actual physical controls, because I've never really liked them with touch controls. They just have felt a little too sloppy for me. I never feel like I have the precision that I do playing an Xbox 360 game or something like that. And the MOGA Ace Power has basically totally fixed that problem. I can move around and aim with ease, and my fingers aren't all over the place. The controls, aside from that, are pretty simple. You hit X to switch between melee weapons and your pistol, and the L1 button allows you to zoom in. It's just way more fun when you can see everything that you're doing and your thumbs aren't covering the bottom third of the screen as you anxiously try to spin around or do whatever else. So controls have improved this game greatly. I highly recommend checking it out as soon as you get one. Next up we have Bastion from Warner Brothers, which was a console port that came to iOS. And the touch controls, they worked, but they were not that great. Obviously adding a controller to the mix to a game that was made with a controller in mind really seems to solve that problem. Just kind of mash buttons to attack, and it feels oddly close to the Xbox version of the game. With the B button to attack, and then you can use the other buttons to switch weapons, and the trigger button actually is what causes you to bring up your shield. It makes fighting feel a lot better than frantically hitting your touchscreen buttons, because it always feels like your fingers roll off the buttons or you don't hit them when you need to, and that problem is totally resolved when you've got physical controls. Although you can kind of notice that the buttons are a little clicky, as you can hear in this video, which makes button mashing games kind of annoying to play because, I don't know, just makes more noise than you would be used to with a controller, as you can see there. But overall, Bastion's greatly improved with physical controls, and that really shouldn't come as much of a surprise because it was never built with virtual controls in mind in the first place. Limbo by Playdead is a puzzle platformer which similarly is improved by adding physical controls just because of the nature of platformers, it seems like. Although it seems like Limbo is a little bit more fun to play on a big screen, and the unfortunate side effect of the way this controller is designed in using the lightning port is that you can't use the lightning to HDMI adapter. You can play over AirPlay via mirroring, but the problem with that is the tiny lag between the controller and your iPod Touch, and then all that getting blasted up into AirPlay, and then down through your Apple TV and back to your TV, adds enough latency that it becomes pretty noticeable, especially in games where any kind of precision is valued. So that's a little disappointing, but overall, just like the previous two games, Limbo is an experience that's greatly improved physical controls. It seems far less frustrating to play when you're not missing a jump or something like that because you wandered off the virtual control segments of the iPod Touch or iPhone or whatever you're playing it on. So basically following the theme of games that were console ports or required actual or were designed for an actual controller are better with the MOGA Ace Power. FDG's Entertainment's Oceanhorn is an interesting example to look at when it comes to iOS 7 controller support because it was designed to be a touchscreen game. You could argue that Dead Trigger 2 was as well, but first-person shooters have always lent themselves to different controls that aren't touchscreen controls, at least in my opinion. And then Bastion and Limbo were both console ports that came to iOS, so naturally they don't work as well with virtual controls. Oceanhorn, however, was designed from the ground up with virtual controls in mind, and it almost seems like it makes no difference whether or not you play it with a controller. The virtual controls in Oceanhorn are great. The buttons are positioned in a way that it's never really a problem. And what's strange is when you play it with a physical controller, it almost seems like the game is too simple for your controls, and that you really only are ever hitting one button. The analog stick's a little weird because I feel like the touchscreen controls just are more precise, which is kind of an odd thing to experience because you're so used to a controller being better. But as you can kind of see here, every once in a while I have a little trouble moving, and that could just be a calibration issue with the developers not having a physical controller to test on or anything like that. But I'm definitely preferring Oceanhorn just on the touchscreen itself, which wasn't really something I was expecting. I thought everything was going to be improved by the controller. So definitely take a look when these are released.